Take a look at this story from Timcast.com. More than 1 in 4 Americans say it may soon be necessary to take up arms against the U.S. government. And actually, a plurality of strong Republicans said it. Yeah, that's kind of freaky. The poll was released on June 30th by the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics. According to their findings, 28% of voters, including 37% who have guns in their homes, agree it may be necessary at some point soon for citizens to take up arms against the government. The funny thing is, I bet that stat stays true for like strong Republicans forever, like no matter what, because they say it all the time. So I don't know if there's actually like an increase in the number. For all I know, it's gone down, right?
It felt that way watching the riots, that everyone was trying to take down the government. I mean, like the mayor was getting baptized in fire out there out west. I forget where that was. Like they were
Which
all
one?
In Portland or something when he was standing outside the fire, like doing.
Oh
prayers.
yeah,
that was
like,
Portland. Yeah,
right. Like
yeah.
It seemed
and
like
then
everybody
he
wanted it.
Desperately tried to get back in the building, like let me in.
Right.
They were throwing.
Yeah, they
stuff
got
at
him. They got him a week after.
I just thought it was funny to pull this story up as like it's MAGA month. You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is what MAGA month is all about. All right, we got people who are losing confidence in the government. They are scared. We need to make America great again, and we need a month to do it. So this is that month, every month from now on.
So does the story, and I know I sent this to you guys when I was on my way in, but does it break down in the poll, right, left, right, party distinction, any of that kind of stuff?
Strong GOP, independent, Democrat, and strong Democrat.
Okay, now where are the fault lines? Do you see
Independence.
Do you see both sides, right,
No.
on the extremes? What would you say?
No, but like strong Democrats, 71% I think say you don't need to.
Okay.
But they control the institution. So
Right.
they're like, don't.
It's their government.
Independent voters, 1/3 of independent
Very
voters say
interesting.
yes.
Serious, 1/3?
1/3 of independent voters. And that's more than
Which is more
Republicans.
than the total.
It's more than Republicans.
Huh.
Republicans are like 28 or 30 or something, and then strong GOP is the plurality, 45%. So among strong GOP, 45%, I believe it's 45, say you may have to, and like 42 say you don't have to. And that's the only bracket where the you may have to is larger. But conservatives believe it less than independent voters.
Well, Thomas
That's
Jefferson
crazy.
was pretty clear. You may have to take up arms against the corrupt government. Like he said that blatantly, just so you know, everyone, as part of being American, you may have to take up arms at some point if the government becomes tyrannical. He was very clear about that.
Well, and this is Jefferson, by the way, and this is the same Jefferson, by the way, who goes over and sees the beginnings of the French Revolution and is like, yeah, this is great. Let's continue to do this without, kind of realizing which forces exactly were being unleashed. And this is why you have these huge differences between, sure, both were armed uprisings against a central government, right, a monarchy, but the American Revolution's character was far different from the French Revolution character.
Yeah, they was a lot of them to begin with. It wasn't just like Robespierre and Danton. It was
They were
like
starving too.
the Americans.
No, the French.
The French were starving. The monarch was there on their soil with them, so that was another problem they had to face. But the Americans were very organized. They also had a lot of outside help, being the French, which then caused the French Revolution, that caused the French to go bankrupt, which was a big part of why they were starving.
It was when the women came out and they were, hungry.
I think that the French Revolution was too culty. It was too much about Robespierre. It became about his personality and how great he was and how he was going to lead them
Well, it was
to
like
salvation.
It was like a twofold revolution, right? You actually had the period where you had the left and the right in the the Parliament chamber or whatever.
And this is where we get the terms. Right. Yeah.
You actually had the radical. So there's a revolution, and the radicals and then the moderates are like yelling at each other, and then the moderates get crushed, and then Robespierre's like off with their heads, and then they offed with his head. And, the whole thing was just kind of crazy.
First, they blew his jaw off. That's the story. He was in order, and he was known for just talk, and then eventually they were like, "I've had it." They blew his jaw off. They laid him on a table for like 3 days to die. I'm pretty sure that's how the story goes.
Didn't they cut his head off?
After that, they might have guillotined him, yeah, or they might have just let him bleed
sure.
out. Let me find out.
Yeah.
Robespierre turned on his buddy, the number 2 guy, Danton, who then said it would have been better to have been a poor farmer than to meddle in the politics of man.
And that's what people, it's funny because we talk about how people don't want to stand up, and it's like maybe they learned a lesson from the French Revolution. Duck and hide. The fires will rage and burn down your home and your life, but you may yet survive.
Yeah, you
Scary
kind of
prospect.
want to build something that allows for the system to change, not so much be the leader and the speaker and feel good about yourself because everyone loves you. It's not what it's
yes, I mean so here's the problem. The United States has a constitution that can be amended. Congress is dysfunctional. The left has been trying to use the Supreme Court as their way of passing laws because they can't actually get laws passed.
Not just trying, doing.
They're doing, right.
For a long time.
They blame minority rule, saying it's not fair that these, but they don't understand California used to be very sparsely populated, so change happens. The problem is right now, instead of being like, okay, we all agree to work by these rules, they're just saying like, screw it, burn it down. It's not fair.
You'll see more typically, like it's, I get what you're saying, right? And you see this in actually the Supreme Court ruling that just came out on the Remain in Mexico policy, right? Where Kavanaugh, right, caved on that. But it was sort of this idea that, well, that was a Trump era policy, and even though we all disagree with it, we want to keep it in place for the integrity of the system, because that was the election. Biden's in now, and he have the ability as the current president to rescind an executive order, and the rule that he does, right? So you'll see what I'm trying to say, and I'm not necessarily trying to get into that issue whether or not I agree with that. I'm just saying that was the thinking. And so you'll see that more with conservatives saying we want to keep the system so that everybody gets a fair shake, even if it doesn't benefit our side, whereas the left will say, nah, man, just burn it down.
Yeah, quite literally. Peaceful fires.
It's going to get mostly peaceful out there.
Mostly peaceful.
It's going to get mostly peaceful out there.
Yeah, man. You look at what's going on with the Roe v. Wade stuff. You look at Bill Maher came out, and he I'm sorry, not Bill Maher, Jon Stewart, and he said that this is the Fox News of Supreme Courts, and then I'm watching that, and I'm like, why? Because they're like, these are the rules the country was set upon. Yep. The attitude of these people like Jon Stewart is, if enough people want it, it doesn't matter what the law is, and I'm like, that's stupid. Because people often want really dumb, dangerous things. So we have a process by which we come to cooperate and agree upon things. And if you can't do it, well, too bad. The problem is Congress is dysfunctional. Yep. And so people aren't getting what they want, so they prefer to burn it down. Politicians, knowing that you can get votes from really dumb people, are pandering to them, and it's working.
Which, by the way, it's the amazing thing on the Roe v. Wade ruling, which for 50 years stood as, that literally was the opposite of, right, quote unquote, democracy, right? Because they went to the courts and said, we don't like that these Republicans are banning this thing that we want, so we want you to make it a federal, not just law, right, that would you pass through Congress, but a federal rule, essentially ruling that there's a right to this that doesn't actually, appear anywhere in the Constitution, but we're going to protect it as if it does, so that these states can't decide on their own how they want to run their states. So it's this really weird kind of situation where they banned banning it, right? They banned banning abortion. That's what Roe v. Wade did. And so overturning it doesn't allow abortion bans. It allows each state
it didn't even ban
set it in.
It said you can't ban it in the first trimester. In the second trimester, we'll have a conversation.
That's correct.
In the third, it can be banned. And you ask these people, they don't even know what Roe did or what Casey did. Casey changed from a viability standard from trimester to viability.
Right.
But they don't even know why they're protesting. I was watching this one video where this woman is being interviewed. She's like an Antifa person, and she's like Roe v. Wade or whatever. And she's like, I should be able to go down, and the government should pay for my abortion. And then the person asking is like, you're in California. That's how it is. You can literally do that. And she's like, everyone should. And they're like, yes, but everyone in California can do that. You don't live in Texas.
Yeah.
What are you protesting in California for?
Most of the protests were in states where abortion will probably continue to be legal.
Right. Overturning Roe is the most pro-choice decision because it just gave it to the states to do whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah, most of the fires
increased
happening.
choice.
Yeah.
Right. Actually,
we're
increased
happening in
choice.
States where you
Right.
Get whatever you want.
They just want Republicans to abort their babies.
I got mixed feelings about it because people say, like, I don't want the government involved in medical procedures. And then, so the Supreme Court said, okay, no governments can be involved in this medical procedure. It's completely up. So then they're like, no
federal government.
Yeah, no federal government
For
can.
now.
And now there's 50 governments that can decide. So like before there was one government deciding, the union. Now there's 50. So is that better? I don't get it.
The states all had laws on the books. So Roe basically said, the question with Roe and Casey is, does the baby have its own privacy rights? And the general idea was, at viability, it does. Pre-viability, it doesn't, because it's dependent. And so states were allowed to pass laws restricting or regulating abortion, and they all did. So you had 51 governments. The federal government just said it is not up to so the Supreme Court said, we do not have authority on this. Congress will have to pass a law. We out. And now one less government was making an imposition, and the 50 states that were in some way regulating just changed the way they were regulating, so they're all still involved. Plus, it's like it even goes down to the county and state level, city level too. Like, it's not just one government; it's thousands of governments regulating all this stuff.
I've definitely got abortion fatigue at this point. The conversation has gone on, like, maybe because we're on a talk show and it comes up almost every day.
But it's because, in my opinion, the Democrats are using it for a very serious wedge issue. They're protesting. I don't understand what they're protesting. And to your point, Ian, the fatigue. What do they want? What are they asking for? California doesn't need anything from Texas. New York doesn't need anything from Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. The people who live in those places, for the most part, voted for these policies and these politicians. Is it that the majority of New York is looking out for the 8% of Oklahoma that is concerned about this, or what?
It just looks like two separate realities are at war, and they're because it comes down to just one reality thinks it's a life and the other doesn't, and like they're warring over the definition of life.
Or they think it is a life and they're willing to kill it.
Or just
I don't know, man.
Human sacrifice.
I think you're sort of right, but I don't think the left has any real cohesive standard by what they're talking about. Yeah, because look, some woman today, she posted, how is it that abortion got banned? As I saw this meme on Facebook. How is it these abortion got banned before an assault rifle? And so I just responded with, assault rifles are banned under the Hughes Amendment, 1984, I believe it's 1984, and you can get them, they're grandfathered in. You're referring to standard semi-automatic rifles. And she's responded with, I'm referring to anything that can kill a kid and leave them like a bloody mess. And I'm like, okay, well, that's all guns.
Well, so, anything that can kill a kid.
Right, it could be a brick.
Right, yeah. So if you've got kids, believe me, like
that crowbar.
You are, as a parent, you are constantly in a state of just when you're around your kid, you're not, all right, this can do this can do that. They could fall, they could do this thing, they could
turn anything into
they can literally turn anything in their home into that.
I think the Hughes Act is 86. Is that right?
Is it 86?
Firearm Owners Protection Act.
Okay, right. So I was wrong. 86. It's 86. But my point is just like, if you post something incorrect, and I say I understand what you're saying, let me give you the proper framing. You say, I don't care. I'm like, okay, I get it. You don't care. Like, you're literally arguing nothing. Fine. Then what's the point of having a conversation with someone who's arguing nothing?
I don't do it. I won't do it anymore.
But this is the rule. It is the exception on the right, is the rule on the left. And it's the exception on the right and the rule on the left.
What is the exception or the rule?
That on the right, you will encounter periodically individuals who don't actually argue for something. They're tribalist. But it's the exception. The actual ultra MAGA, like fringe Trump diehards who believe crazy things like, come March 3rd, Donald Trump will be. It's like, okay, there's not very many of them. They're not prominent in media. There are some politicians that have pushed closer to the fringe of that. But the mainstream conversation, defined as the right for the most part, is like extremely argumentative, extremely nuanced. Like, look at the show we did on the Roe v. Wade overturned day with Seamus and Austin Peterson and Will Chamberlain. We all disagreed on everything.
I was listening to that show live, and that was fantastic. That was a fantastic episode.
But this is the quote-unquote right, and it's like, it's funny when people on Twitter are like, Tim's right wing, and I'm just like, I'm center left on like a lot of public policy issues. I'm just libertarian. If that's the case, then what we call the left with Nancy Pelosi Democrats, they're not arguing for anything. They're not arguing anything. It is the rule. On the left, they will not give you an argument. It's the exception. Some of them will. On the right, it is the rule. You will get the argument. It's the exception. Sometimes it's tribalism.
It's kind of like emotions versus logic, I think. A lot of people that would consider themselves leftists are driven by their emotional standards.
But I think there's another angle to it as well that gets into the word rule itself, but it like in the other sense of the word rule as power, right? And so I think that for 50 years, Roe v. Wade stood as a sacred cow for the left for a very long time. It was one of the most powerful things. They think of it, right? They were able to impose by sheer force of will, right? This was the culmination of the radical 60s, the sexual revolution, obviously, that they were allowed to pass this, not just in their own states. They willed an actual amendment to the Constitution into being through the courts without actually having to go through the constitutional process itself. And it stood the test of time for 50 years. And so I think that they realize inherently, and even the folks like Pelosi and Hillary who are around at that time, they realize that level of power that they've had is starting to slip away.
Adrian Curry chatted, Tim is super left with sprinkles of righty. That proves it.
That does prove it.
Yeah,
But are
she
they
said
rainbow
it.
sprinkles?
MAGA sprinkles.
Yeah.
Not
This is the funny thing,
This
too,
one, the
like,
raga sprinkles.
Yeah.
People were commenting like, Tim Pool is far right. This proves it. MAGA month and all that. It's just like, it's very clearly meant to be just a silly, fun thing to do. That's not.
You can't have fun.
You can't have fun.
How dare you?
We say that now in the show, but afterwards the ritual will commence, right?
Yeah.
The robes come out.
The MAGA,
Yeah, it's called the
robes
4th
come
of
out.
July.
Yeah.
Right.
We're gonna grill
It's
stuff.
just, it's, yeah, we're
that's
going to
what we
grill
blow
stuff.
things
There's going to be
up.
fireworks.
No, I think
We're
Civic.
gonna blow stuff up
I think Civic
as a holiday.
100%. I think civic rituals are important. I think a functioning society, a cohesive society, has civic rituals, and 4th of July obviously is one of the largest ones. But it's so. Even the more basic ones, like standing up for the national anthem at a baseball game, or there's a drive-in movie theater I take my kids to, and they play the national anthem and they say, hey, can everyone just get out of your car, and like they don't say it, but it's like shut up for like it's a minute, right? But you stand up and you do that, and it is a national ritual.
What should happen is that at every sporting event, a large glass holographic screen comes up with Hulk Hogan playing the electric guitar with the American flag behind him, and then fireworks start launching like crazy.
Agreed.
While we all sing the national anthem.
We all ride eagles into the sunset.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.